if you want to get anything, then it's going to take a lot of hard work and it's not going to be very easy. What's up, guys? This is Mighty Q's Locker. I am Mighty Q, and today I am talking with another one of my brand ambassadors for the Mighty Q's Locker team, AB Stokes. For AB, he is a coach's kid, so for him, he had a little bit of different approach to his sports world, with his dad being a football coach and basically kind of having him involved in sports at a very young age. But I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. It is an awesome conversation to hear his story and his background and where he is headed to next. So, as always, there's no ads or anything on this podcast, but if you do enjoy it, I just ask that you share it with a friend and leave a review. Thanks. Enjoy the conversation. Hey, here we go. We're off and rolling. What's up, my man? How
What's
are you?
up, man? What's up? I'm doing pretty
Uh,
good. How about you?
oh, was Malachi likes to get up. We did a podcast at 6:15, and then
Oh, dang.
I hit leg day at the gym this morning because it's a Monday. I like hitting legs Monday morning, and then get rolling and get after it. So, what are your big plans for the day?
For the day, well, I woke up, went for a run, a nice five 5K run, and then got back in, showered, changed. Right now I just ate breakfast. It was some fruit and toast, and then I got to practice later today at 4. So until then, I should be chilling.
Heck yeah, man. Is that so you run most days?
Um, Whichever day I don't have work, because usually uh I work during the week, but if I don't have work, I'll typically wake up and run because I work at an old person's home, so I'm like always on my feet, always walking around. So
Okay, that's what's up, man. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, the one question is, I mean, why wrestling? What made you pick wrestling?
What made me pick wrestling? Well, you see, when I was a kid, my dad coached it in high school. He was a football coach also. Football was his main sport. That's what he did in college, and that's what he kind of got me into. But I don't know. I was kind of just like drawn towards wrestling more because that's what I was more like around as a kid. I can recall the first time I stepped on the mat. I was probably about like 3 or 4. I walk on the mat, and like it's something I didn't ever see like before, like ever. So it kind of catches the eye. Like you see this room with mats on the wall and mats on the floor and ropes and pull bars, and you're like, man, like I wonder what they're doing here. Um, and so like the first thing I see is these tough dudes, lean, buff, cauliflower ear, and they just kind of got like this like swagger to them as they're like walking around, and everything they do, they start getting warmed up and jogging, and like they just kind of carry themselves a different way than you see most athletes carry themselves. So I was very like wowed by that, and I was like, man, like I wonder if I could ever be that cool one day. And so one day I kind of, because they start the warm ups to get jogging around. I just kind of joined in, because I was like, I want to be like these cool guys. I see them jogging, then I'll start jogging, and we just start jogging around, and they start doing the cartwheels and flips and backflips, and I was just like, oh, like these dudes are athletes, like real athletes, and so I try my best to do a cartwheel and a round off, and that was only like the tip the iceberg of what I was really getting myself into. And then
Man, that like you say with the cartwheels and all that stuff, man, you
yeah,
know that wrestlers are the athletes that no one likes to talk
they,
about, man.
like they're just a different breed. Like I started seeing them doing the shoulder rolls and the backwards rolls up to their feet and just like all sorts of things, and I was like, whoa, like I didn't know you could be like an athlete like them. And so, I kind of got into it more and more. I started practicing. I started doing kids club. The only thing was though is I was very soft as a kid. I hated physicality, and roughness. So that part of the sport got to me a lot. I'd be doing good, but the second time I got like the second I got hit in the lip, I just started crying. Just panicking, and it was pretty rough. My first competitive season, I was probably about 4. Um, and I lost every match. I lost every match but one, and it was basically because my dad told me to go out there and look mean, and I went out there and I started growling and hissing, and the kid got so scared he ran off the mat crying.
Hey, it's just how
No, I felt so like accomplished because usually I used to walk out on the mat and I'd be crying like before the match had even started. I'd just be crying, and so my dad was like, go out there and look like you're ready to hurt somebody and look mean. So I walk out there and the kid looks at me and I just start, So then the kid, he just runs in the opposite way. He's like, I don't want to wrestle that crazy black boy, like this dude's crazy. This dude's crazy. And then after that, I remember I kind of took a break. I took like a year off because my dad was like, maybe it's just not for you because it was a physical sport. And physicality was not me for a while. I did not like the roughness. I always wanted to be gentle and soft, but in wrestling there really is no room for that. So I took a break, took a year off. I kind of always maybe practiced, or my dad would take me to one because, like I said, he was a high school coach, so I still was around it a lot. I saw meets still in duels, so wrestling was very relevant in my life still, even though I wasn't doing it per se. And then eventually, I kind of got back into it. I don't remember this, but my dad said one day we just were like driving, like we were driving to somewhere, I think the house, going out to eat, and he said I just looked at him and was like, "It's time, Dad." And my dad was like, "Time to what?" And I was like, "Wrestle." And he was like, "All right." I mean, because he's a football guy, so he was thinking if not wrestling, then football. So he really wasn't tripping on anything, like he just was like, if you want to try it again, you can. If not, it's cool. So I tried it again, and this is when I'm probably about 6. So I'm a little older. My dad had me doing workouts this entire time I was off. He used to have me do push-ups with like the 10-pound plates on my back and doing pull-ups and med ball crunches and just things like that. So I'm kind of starting to find myself through like me growing up, getting stronger and faster. So I'm kind of understanding things a little more, and I start wrestling again and practicing, and I'm still very sensitive and soft. I remember still crying a lot, but something about me got a little meaner. I was kind of better at biting back and like learning how to win. And my six, yeah. So when I was 6 years old, I went undefeated all the way up until Kids Club State and took fifth. And at the time, I was wrestling 8 and under. So I was 6 years old wrestling basically 7 year olds and 8 year olds that whole year. And the state tournament was very eye opening for me. I had always went to just the tiny tournaments, the tiny opens, and here in Kansas, like the Kids Club State, it's big because it's everybody in the state. They don't break it up or anything. It's everyone in this giant place. So there were some ups and downs. Uh, funny thing here. So the person who won that bracket was also 6, and it was a good buddy of mine named Nick Treaster, who is now like one of my best teammates, my best friends. I train with him day in and day out, and he's actually he's taking a great shot at Navy, yeah, and he's a Fargo finalist, USA Greco World Team member, and just things like that. So I think it's kind of crazy because like we still talk about it, like, man, you won that bracket and I took fifth, and we both were probably the smallest ones in that bracket because everyone else was just older. And so after that, I stuck with him. we moved around from town to town. We landed in one town named Larned, and we stayed in that town for majority of my childhood. So I wrestled throughout the years in J High, and I kind of got better and better. I started to really compete heavy in the club aspect of it. I joined like the national teams and traveled to New Jersey, New Mexico, Nebraska, Colorado, Oklahoma, just all over the country, basically. And I'd compete. I started going to camps, and it kind of brought me to become the wrestler I am now. I'd say is all the traveling and competing I did as a kid, and since then, yeah, I've just been with it.
Yeah, getting a chance to wrestle the state, uh, state tournament, everybody to wrestle, and so only uh, getting a chance kids that are outside that you're competing with too, because you get a chance
Yep.
to see all the different competition, because it's at the high school level, you're competing to a certain degree with on your city, your district, your region, your state. And then when you start looking at college, it's like, okay, well, now you're competing with every high schooler in that weight class, and
Yep.
getting a chance to see where some guys are, and where are some places you can take advantage of and get your name out there. I mean, that's huge. I mean, just getting a chance of traveling, that's something that is so fundamental for anyone who really wants to wrestle at a high level. Is like you have to get out and compete. If you want to wrestle at a high level, you can't just go to the same tournaments every year, same, but see people. You got to get better. During that, was just wrestling. I mean, I know that with football, all that stuff. Do you play football? Play any other sports? Is it just wrestling?
I did play football. Yeah, I played football third grade through eighth grade. I did play flag football too in first and second grade because I did like football. I really loved football. Wrestling definitely had my heart, but I mean, my dad was a football coach, so it was kind of be weird to have a football coach as a dad and not play football yourself or at least try it. So I played football. I was pretty good at it, defense, as you can tell, because I was good at grabbing people and tackling. But I did play both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I was the tailback. I kind of likes to run around and get the touchdown, but I also liked tackling people. So that was fun. I did play baseball too. I want to say fifth grade year. I tried baseball out one time, but I kind of sucked at it. I'm not gonna lie, that was the one sport I was just terrible at. I couldn't hit the ball. The coach would always tell me to just bunt and take off because I was fast enough. But
Baseball's because it's so slow. That was part of the
yeah,
reason why
it was
why
very
I
slow
ended up
paced for
stopping.
me. Yeah.
Which is then funny because I basically chose golf instead of baseball because it was a combination of baseball was messing with my golf swing, and then
hmm
at least with golf, like yeah, it might take 4 hours or whatever, but it's like being out there in tournaments, you're constantly moving, you're constantly doing something, and you're out on your own. Versus with
hmm
baseball, like I mean, if you get a kid who's kind of a decent pitcher, it's like then you're just standing out in the outfield and watching kids swing and
Yeah.
miss. Like, well, this is nothing. So I
Yeah.
feel you on that one. Oh man, there's something special football for any who played football. I don't and but it's like buckling up crap and
I
that
definitely
feeling.
think it's probably the best team sport out there, football.
I I I gotta agree. There's
Yeah.
nothing that does it better. I mean, it brings you
That
together. You have to play as one.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone goes through the same pains. Everyone goes through the same fight through, and just keep moving. I've always been a fan of wrestling, of the community that wrestling has, just kind of combat sports in general has that like
That
real
close tight.
brotherhood to it.
Yeah.
But football has that different element of, hey, we all have to do our own jobs, but like line on each other out here. It's like if you mess
Yeah.
up, that messes me up, and like we're all messed up. So I completely agree, man. I just semi-pro ball for the last for the last 3 seasons. That was something I had the same way. I moved to tech, it was life and having and then playing we were and the same thing in third grade going into high school because I was smaller than everyone else. And then time I was still playing golf, and I was like, well, golf is in the fall and the spring, and wrestling's in the winter. And I was like, well, that kind of doesn't really leave any room for football.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, I'd rather play those two sports anyways. And so, ended up going with those two through high school. Stopped wrestling my sophomore year to stick with golf because I was like, oh, if I'm going to do this forever, might as well, do it full time now. And made it to college on a golf scholarship. And basically from there, once I figured out, I was like, oh, I'm kind of missing out on a peak window here and in North, but, then ended up leaving school and go and fall and now and about to start beach wrestling. So man, things
I
have
know that sounds awesome.
completely changed. When I was at June of 2018 is when was the last time that I had wrestled. And, that was in the NCAA Go Greco Nationals that, I took second in. And, that was my, all right, this is kind of it for me with wrestling. There's nowhere else I really want to do it. And so for me to be going back and to be doing beach wrestling, man, it's kind of crazy. So for you, I know you're about to head off, your freshman year and got landed working out, but what's your major be?
It's HHP, which is Human Health and Performance. It's basically, if you're not sure if you want to go down the training route or the like coach route.
That's oh man, I wish I would
Yeah.
have known about that. Man,
Because I do, yeah, I do plan on like whatever my job is, it being tied in with like at least some kind of sport still, because it's a big part of my life.
yeah, I mean, especially it's basically been your entire life. And
Yeah.
I know that feeling. Like I know the other day, asked me, they're like, oh, because really think about it, it's like, yeah, I run a business and whatnot, but I'm always kind of doing a bunch of other stuff. And when it really came down to it, it's like, well, sports were kind of my life and kind of are my life. Like
Yeah.
every moment that it's like, well, I was either or
Or doing that sport.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did you spend time at? I was at I was at the tournament,
Yeah.
traveling those things. Like there's really no scene. And so for now, yeah, it's like sports are my life. Without it, I wouldn't even know what to do without sports anymore.
Yeah.
So if you had the choice, I mean, you're going to be wrestling, you're probably going to wrestle 25 this year, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you foresee yourself being at 25 for the next handful of years, or are you going to kind of work your way up as you kind of go through, or is it kind of see as you go?
Mm, definitely kind of see as I go. Right now, my body hasn't grown since my senior year. It hasn't grown at all weight wise. I've kind of always stayed around that 130 spot. So I can see myself being at a 125 for at least amount of 2 years or three. My dad also though did tell me he hit his growth spurt in college, which is kind of weird because most dudes are done growing after high school. But my dad did say he hit a growth spurt in college, so if I happen to hit that too, I'd probably go up to 33.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I probably more my freshman sophomore year of college than I did anything else because I wrestled 120 my freshman year of high school,
wrestled
Oh
38 my
wow.
sophomore year. But that sophomore year is kind of when, but then by the time I graduated my senior year, I mean, I came in, I was like basically like 5'8" ish. And by the time I graduated as a senior, I mean, I was just under 6'1". So, I mean, I grew in, then by the college, I finally hit, and then there, for inch and a half over the 2, 3. So I, I look at it more as like the strength that I had in high school. Like, I mean, you know, you're, you're fit because you've always grown up in sports and you've worked out, but like there's a certain level that your body just kind of matures to. So the strength that you have, it just kind of amplifies and adds on to itself. Because like I mean, I
Yeah.
basically I hated lifting. I always hated lifting. And it wasn't until I moved to Fargo, I'd probably say it was like December of 2020 is when I really, I was like, all right, well, this is just kind of what I do now. Like I just kind of go to the gym every day. And
Yeah.
it was basically at that point that I kind of realized I was like, oh, I was like, I and something I've never
Wait, yeah.
done. And going getting strong. Then as soon as my and oh, oh, and then like another year came around, I was like, oh, okay. And like even now, like I was at the gym today, like this morning, and it was just like, oh yeah, there's a huge difference in strength where it's like I have roughly the same amount of strength, but it's so much better now and like actually useful now versus
It's
like
useful now,
before.
yeah.
Like I think I think your body just gets coordinated for it all. Cause
It just fine tunes itself, kind of.
like just like an awkward, like Gumby type, like
Yeah, you
had
just
had
didn't
that
know how to
awkward
use your
strength
strength
and
really. Yeah, that like stiffness kind of just.
like, do you know what you're doing? I'm like, not really. Especially now, it's just, putting in the seeing some stuff and kind of be some rant. What do you think is like, what do you think has made you good at wrestling? Like, what do you think is your kind of secret sauce?
My secret sauce, probably the repetition, no matter what the outcome is. Because my dad has this saying, and it's you're only champion for a day. Basically, whether you win or lose, you're only champion for a day. You still have to get back to work. You still have to put in the time to get better. Because, it'd be easy to like come off of a high, you win a tournament and be like, oh, I won this tournament. I'm just going to take a day off, instead of, I'm only champion for that day. Now, every new week, you're back to square one. Every guy's back to the same playing field. I need to get back in the gym and put in work because it would have been easy also to be like, you get runner up and be like, I had a good tournament, fell short. I'll just take a break though and then bounce back. But with me, I've kind of always, and my dad's pushed me to where it's been built in my mind that like there's always time to get better. There's always time to work harder and put in more work. Cause I've taken second a lot of times in my life. I'm not gonna lie, I'm runner up king around here, and so like I've just always been driven to always push myself harder to where when it got to my senior year, when I was winning majority of the tournaments, I just already had the like mindset that I want to push myself harder than I did last week, so then I'm better than I was. So then I then create a bigger gap between me and my other opponents. So then that's how you kind of get good and stay good. You then become there's no hot and cold. You're just always. And then I come off of a tournament that I won. I work hard to come back that next week and win a tournament. Pins are all tech falls, and then you kind of just build off that.
Heck yeah, man. That's one of the best mindsets. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a great way to look at it too. And I know that's always one where like right when you graduate from college. It's like you have this great achievement and you're so happy at graduation. You're walking across the stage and you got your diploma and you're just, you're so ecstatic, but then, you wake up the next morning and you're just an
Uh-huh.
you're just an unemployed adult. Like that's all you
Yeah.
are that next day. Like you got to
Man,
look at,
yeah,
the
yeah.
base facts
Very
is
real, yeah.
what are you doing? I don't know. I've got no job.
I don't know.
I don't really have a place to live. I don't know what I'm really doing. And, so
Yeah.
it's that same approach with sports. I'm dad was able to be like that. So people that, that win, that, they go, oh,
You're
so good.
satisfied, yeah.
And I'm guys, they win one event and that's it. They'll never win again because they said, well, I won, I don't have to train anymore, or I don't need to train that hard, or whatever it may be. But those guys that have that repeated success are the ones that are in the gym that next day right after they win, because like you said, they understand when they wake up the next morning that that day's gone. It's not coming back.
Yep.
The only way that you're
That
going to
day's
feel that
gone, yep.
again is showing up and getting after it. So that's that's incredible, man. I love hearing that, and that's why I like you guys so much, man. You and your dad both have the great mindset and know how to get stuff done. So for you, what are some of your what are your goals kind of going into this year? I mean, I know it's kind of tough, being fresh and
Freshman
for
year, yeah.
do, but, what are some goals both technically and like
Well, I want to say I know it's going to be a big task to try and start as a freshman. So my goal will be to start as a freshman, and with that being, I just want to do my job the best I can and be the best I can. I know I'm going to face many challenges because I'm a freshman, but I feel like with the prep I put in now before the season, kind of determines what my outcome will be during it. Because you can look at it into two different ways. I could qualify for nationals. I could place, but whatever I do, I just want to make sure I'm at a steady incline. Like I just don't want to take any step back because that's what lots of high schoolers do coming in from the high school to college because they kind of underestimated and think that like because they've accomplished what they've accomplished that things are just going to be handed to them in college. No one cares who you are or like what you've done. You're back at square one. So basically I'm going to try and like build myself up, build my lungs up, conditioning, training, so then I can then catch up with the speed college is at.
that that first period at 3 minutes, man, going from
Oh,
2-2-2 to three two
to
two,
three, I've
man,
heard the stories.
that is
I've heard the stories, man. I got a cousin who he's been in college for 2 years now. His first year going into it, I had asked him, I was like, man, how's college now and this and that, and he was just like that first period will drain you if you do not work on your cardio. It's a whole different ball game. Like that one extra minute feels like a whole extra year just added to it.
I remember college I wrestled. I was off 4 years from sophomore year. I got a call from my coach Wednesday, and I wrestled that Saturday. I didn't practice. I just showed up down in Austin, went to the University of Texas. Were hosting the tournament and went down there, weighed in at I think it was 191.4, which was the heaviest I weighed all year. Once I actually started going to practices and whatnot, you know how you drop weight. So went
Yeah.
from I remember walking in, I was walking in, eating Chick-fil-A chicken minis, stepped on the scale, 191.4, wrestling at 197. Won my first match, and just I was just trying to fast as I'd
Yeah. Yeah.
been in a stand, taking a shit, done all these reversal of it quick, and then with a get to the second match now, but what's going on? What are we really trying to do? What things are we trying to knock some rust off of? And yeah, it was just that, man, the lungs were screaming with
Those things were
the
on
fact of
fire,
how
man.
out of shape I was, and then adding in that extra of, oh yeah, it's 3 minutes, by the way. Man, I was dying. And basically from that point forward, every tournament from that, I never got close to being in shape, man. It was a fun experience though, and I'm glad that I did it. And going forward now, I'm glad that I have that. But yeah, I mean, it's you really think, oh yeah, it's just a minute. That's nothing. And it's in is
It's
in
insane, yeah.
too much. You're guy, you got on multiple. So there's nothing. I mean, you being a brand ambassador, that's something that I'm super pumped and super excited for, especially as you continue, with your college career going into it. And not only I said you being a brand ambassador, I'll be watching in that regard, but just calling you now a pretty good friend, and I'm just excited to see your journey and see all that you can do.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I'll have you on multiple times. Let the people know where they're able to find you. So whether it be Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, anything like that, what are the ways that people are going to be able to find you?
Definitely on Instagram. I'm not much of a Twitter guy, and then I'm on TikTok from time to time, but Instagram's definitely my main platform,
And
which
is it
is AB Stokes.
my guy? Have a fantastic your day, and we'll be in touch, and we'll keep rocking and rolling, man. But you have a good one, all right?
You too.
All right, see you.
See you.
If you enjoy this podcast, then the only thing that I ask of you is to share the show with a friend and leave a review. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.